Hi, I'm Milla, and welcome to another Milla's Game Room video. The PS2 is the best selling console of all time, well, until the Switch overtakes it in 2025, and is home to some of the best games ever. Moreover, the PlayStation 2 is one of the last home consoles to have a massive library of Japanese exclusive games. Many of them received fan patches as the PS2 faded into obscurity, and those patches are what we're going to discuss today. Usual rules apply. No games with official releases elsewhere, no machine translations or incomplete patches, and in the event these games get localised in the future, please support the developers. With all that said, let's get straight into it. Let's jump right in with a Japan exclusive remake of one of the most popular Japanese RPGs on the PlayStation 1, Tales of Destiny. The original PS1 title single-handedly put Tales on the map for JRPG fans in the 1990s, long before Symphonia. This remake, originally released in 2006 in Japan, was later re-released under the Director's Cut version I'm discussing today. In this game, you play as Stan, who travels with his friends and newfound mythical sword comrade, Dimlos. They're on a mission to stop mysterious evil forces from plunging their world back into wars resembling those from thousands of years ago, when a meteor strike plunged their world into darkness. Tales of Destiny Director's Cut features a brand new introductory video by Production IG, new artwork by the legendary Mitsumi Inamata, rest in peace, remixed music by composers Motoi Sakuraba and Shinji Tamura, a new story mode perspective, new difficulty setting, and even more. There are also significant plot revisions, making the PS2 remake the canon definitive version of the story. So why wasn't Tales of Destiny Director's Cut localised? Well, we don't have an explicit answer. However, I think Bandai Namco's historical reluctance to localise Tales of games is a contributing factor, complicated by the fact the PS1 version is already in English. Plus, the Director's Cut version was released very late in the PlayStation 2's life, so it wasn't viable for localisation, although it's not the latest game in this video. This fan translation, which came out in 2023, fully translates the Director's Cut version into English. This version of the game is widely considered to be the best way to experience Tales of Destiny, at least until Bandai Namco finally decide to remaster this game down the line, which thanks to their recent initiative is looking more likely than ever. Moving away from one of the most well-known PS2 RPGs, we have Rogue Heart's Dungeon, a roguelike RPG developed by Compile Heart. Yep, despite the developer's reputation nowadays, this was only their third game ever made, and it has more in common with retro Idea Factory titles like Spectral Force and Generation of Chaos than Hyperdimension Neptunia and Genkai Toki. This title reimagines the 1980s era computer RPG Rogue, a genre-defining RPG from its time, alongside wizardry. This unique context is why Rogue Heart's Dungeon is on this list, and I guess is why fans patched this title into English back in 2020. Players descend through 4 unique dungeons to find the mysterious Rogue Hearts, said to be in a dungeon overflowing with unknown titles. From what little I found online, it appears Rogue Heart Dungeon got mixed reviews, in part due to the lack of story content, limited characters, and its brutally hard difficulty. So as you can guess, this is no Shiren the Wanderer, but instead is peak Compile Heart, minus the fan service. However, Rogue Heart's Dungeon looks like an interesting game in its own right. You may want to check it out if you're interested in Compile Heart's history alongside historically significant games. It wouldn't be Milla's Game Room without exploring the world of weird shit, so here is weird shit for you to potentially enjoy. This is Dog of Bay, released in 2000 exclusively in Japan. Published by Marvelous and developed by Caviar, yes, that Caviar, this rhythm game stars dog girls putting on performances. This game is aimed at anime fans instead of furries, because the dog girls look more like humans than actual dogs. Dog of Bay is one of many experimental titles from Japanese developers that sought to adapt Sony's Parappa the Rapper into their own, more absurd takes. So how does it play? Players have to watch the 4 on-screen jewels, which are each assigned to a button. When the jewel flashes, players press the corresponding button. Unfortunately, players only have a second to react, meaning this game is surprisingly difficult. However, the presentation is memorable and distinctive, thus helping bring this weird and wonderful world to life. The reason why nobody localised this game officially is obvious. However, what's not obvious is that the fan translation came out in November 2053 via Hilltop Works. You're going to be seeing that name again in this video, by the way. There isn't much text in this game, facilitating an English patch much faster than other games on this list, as well as a shadow drop. This game is considered a footnote in Caviar's history. However, much like Parappa the Rapper and everything else Caviar worked on that's not Drakengard, Dog of Bay is lost to time. But given how weird this game is though, maybe that's for the best. Monolith Soft are among the most critically acclaimed JRPG developers in history. It's easy to forget they used to be fully owned by Bandai Namco, meaning Monolith Soft could develop games for all formats. The most well-known Monolith Soft titles outside of Nintendo are the Xenosaga titles, which you've probably played if you were into JRPGs back in the 2000s. The other big PS2 exclusive RPG from Monolith Soft is Namco X Capcom, a strategy RPG crossover. This title debuted on the 26th of May 2005 in Japan and was co-developed with former Bamco subsidiary Banpresto. Namco X Capcom tells the story of original characters Reiji Arizu and Xiaomu. This dynamic duo must investigate various interdimensional rifts opening in their world. Eventually, they join forces with various Namco and Capcom characters to fight against the evil organisation Ulma, who also allied with other Namco and Capcom characters, mainly villains. Various Namco and Capcom series represented here include Xenosaga, Tales of Destiny, Mega Man Legends, Street Fighter, Captain Commando and Soul Calibur. In terms of other representation, legendary composer Yuzo Koshiro composed some additional original tracks for this game. If you've played the Project Crosshair games, you already know exactly what you're getting into here. Grid-based strategy RPG goodness with 2D action battle segments. This game, given it was the first to be released in this set of RPGs, is known for being very repetitive, long and grindy, which alongside its massive Japanese voice cast and script, makes an official localization difficult to justify. That didn't stop Namco X Capcom from developing a cult following over the years, leading to the English fan translation alongside many official sequels, most of which we actually got localized into English. These games include the previously mentioned Project Cross Zone duology on the Nintendo 3DS, which by the way directly reference events from this game. However, Super Robot Taisen OG Saga Endless Frontier on the Nintendo DS was also localized. That title features Reiji Arizu and Xiaomu alongside Xenosaga characters. As a massive Monolith Soft fan, I plan to play Namco X Capcom someday. I have no idea when I'll be able to, as due to the repetitiveness and length, it's easily one of the biggest time commitments to date outside of Xenoblade. Another cult classic I really want to get around to is Amagami, an iconic Bishoujo visual novel developed by Enterbrain. This romantic comedy visual novel stars Junichi Tachibana, a high school student who struggles with relationships and Christmas after he was stood up 2 years ago. However, when Junichi encounters 6 other students, namely Haruka Morishima, Kaio Tanamachi, Sei Nakata, Ai Nanasaki, Rihoko Sakurai and Tsukasa Ayatsuchi, this Christmas might turn out very differently for him, in the best possible way. This title first came out on the PlayStation 2 on the 19th of March 2009. Yep, this was a very late PlayStation 2 release. It's not even a definitive version either. Much like Tales of Destiny, Amagami got an enhanced port for the PS2 and the PSP under the name Ebikore plus Amagami. Released on the 31st of March 2011, making it one of the last Japan-only PS2 games ever, Ebikore plus Amagami fixes a lot of bugs from the original release, and adds an exclusive minigame on the PSP version. This version is the one you should play. Outside of Japan, Amagami is mostly known for its anime and manga adaptations, which did get official English releases back in the day, and were well received. It's also known for the turbulent history of the English fan translation patch. Fan translation group Nishishi Translations worked on translating this title. However, fan motivation was a real problem throughout the development of this project, not to mention all the technical bugs that the team needed to address before the patch could come out. Addressing these issues took a toll on the development team, with many of them eventually dropping offline to the point where only one person was active. This is of course untenable. Therefore, on the 26th of December 2023, Nishishi Translations officially released the final English patch for Ebikore plus Amagami for both the PS2 and the PSP. While the remaining staff at Nishishi Translations promised to release the tools, this never happened. Ironically, the franchise shares a similar fate in an official capacity. Enterbrain, alongside its successor company, Kadokawa Games, doesn't exist anymore. It's not publicly known whether Kadokawa still owns the IP, or whether Amagami was divested to Dragami Games back in the early 2020s when they split off from Kadokawa Games. Regardless, if you wish to play this classic visual novel, the English patch is your best and likely only option. Cozy gaming has come a long way in recent years. Nowadays, cozy gaming is an entire genre popular with the kiddies. God, I feel so bloody old saying that. However, back in the early 2000s, cozy gaming was relatively niche, and there were few games, yet alone franchises, existing. One of those franchises is Boku no Natsuyasumi, which originated on the PlayStation 1 and ran until the early 2010s on PlayStation hardware. Developed by Millennium Kitchen, this series is known for its relaxing atmosphere, taking place in 1970s Japan. You play as a young boy, Boku, who spends his summer break with his extended family. You have full control over what Boku can do, and throughout each title, you experience a different part of rural Japan. For example, the first Boku no Natsuyasumi title on the PlayStation 1 is set in the rural Japanese countryside. The game I'm covering here, Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, was the first title for the PlayStation 2 and debuted on July 11th, 2002. This game is an alternative universe sequel where Boku's family is now located on Japan's southern coast, as are many of the characters from the first game. Aside from the change in setting, the cozy, relaxing vibes from the first game persist. This helps bring the series into the limelight. Topworks, who I mentioned earlier in this video, released their highly anticipated English patch in November 2023, marking the first time a game in this classic series is available in English. As Boku no Natsuyasumi will never sell millions of copies to a Western AAA casual audience, who by the way are more likely to buy this game than Concord, Sony will never revive this series. This is a shame because Boku no Natsuyasumi is a critical piece of Sony history, which fortunately we can now finally experience in English. As for Millennium Kitchen, they have continued to develop other titles such as a Crayon Shin-chan title and a Natsumon title, both of which carry over the same vibes and are officially available in English. The final game in this video is going to be a game I've talked about on the channel before, Growlanser 6. Atlus Japan's output used to be a lot more diverse than it is now. A series that embodies this is Growlanser, a strategy RPG series developed by Precarious and published by Atlus throughout the 2000s on legacy Sony hardware. Growlanser 6, Precarious World, is the last original Growlanser game that's not a port or remake. It's also the final Growlanser game to come out on the PlayStation 2 on the 21st of June 2007. This title is a direct sequel to Growlanser 5 Heritage of War, which got an official English localization after Growlanser 6 came out in Japan. Growlanser 6 Precarious World is set on the continent of Esgrens, which is home to 3 kingdoms, all facing their own challenges. You play as Merklich, an amnesiac man who is part of the private army of a company on Esgrens called Monopolis. This title features returning characters from Heritage of War, such as the fairy mascot Yuri, alongside the island continent from that title. Moreover, various plot points not explained in Heritage of War are resolved here, as well as other gameplay improvements from the Western release of that title. Precarious World is an interesting case of how not localizing a sequel can undermine the legacy of its predecessor. Growlanser 6 was released very late into the PS2's life, and requires you to play Heritage of War first to understand the story. When you consider this alongside the middling reception of Heritage of War, it makes sense why Atlus USA chose not to localize this game. As the Growlanser series became more well known outside of Japan, fans took it upon themselves to localize the title. In 2023, they released a full English fan patch online, meaning you can now play this cult classic Atlus RPG in English. I already talked about this whole franchise in my Growlanser retrospective video. If you haven't watched that yet, please do, because this series has such a fascinating legacy that you deserve to know about, and I'm going to leave that at the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, algorithm boosting stuff. Consider becoming a channel member if you want to and can afford to do so, and help keep the lights on here at Milla's Game Room. Thank you so much everybody, have a wonderful day, bye bye.